Good afternoon, and thank you for tuning in for another outstanding session of OLC4O, Term 2B, brought to you by WASA Distance Education Center. Today's date is Tuesday, April the 18th, and this date marks class number 2 of OLC4O Term 2B. So we should have, I think, 35 classes together by the time this course wraps up in June. So we've got a long way to go together, got a lot of stuff to cover. Yesterday's class, we talked about the course itself. So I offered students an introduction to the course and just went over some really important details to help you be successful in OLC4O. Today, we're going to review a little bit of those strategies and just, key information for staying in touch with your teacher, that kind of thing. And then we'll take a look at Unit 1, Assignment 1. Okay, let's get into things. All right, so here's some important dates and some important things to know. We are in the first week of Term 2B. That's going to be 9 weeks total. So very important to keep that in mind. So we'll have 9 weeks together, and then once those 9 weeks come and go, we will be at our graduation day of June 15th. So I will mention this pretty much every class, especially that we're now into the final term of the school year, where you have instruction and you have input from your teacher, right? So if you think that you're on pace to graduate, then you've really got to keep that June 15th deadline in mind. You've got to get your credits done. If not, then we can look at a different deadline for you to graduate, but you got to keep that June 15th. That June 15th graduation date in mind. Okay, there'll be no class on May 22nd, 2023. That'll be the May long weekend, so that's the Victoria Day stat. So we won't have a class. That's I believe that's a Monday, so no classes there. But otherwise, we are broadcasting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Otherwise, we will, we're covering Unit 1. That should take us about 3 weeks. Unit 2 should be weeks 4 and 5. Unit 3, weeks 6 and 7. Unit 4 is a bit of a shorter one, so might only need about 1 week for that. But we'll play it by ear, see how it all goes. Your unit work in this course is 80% of your final mark. Sorry, 70% of your final mark. You've got a literacy portfolio. That's worth 10%. And your final exam is 20%. For a grand total of 100. Now I mention that because it's really important in this class to keep track of all your assignments. So make sure you have them organized in a digital folder or an actual folder if you're working with pen and paper. So just make sure you know where all of your assignments are. Try to keep them in order, and that's why it's important to label all your assignments with your name, the course code, all of that. So OLC4O broadcasts live every Monday to Thursday from 1 p.m. to 1:50 p.m. Central Standard Time. During that time, you can phone into the studio at 1-800-465-7144 or using our local number 1-807-737-4017. That's at 91.9 FM or at Bell ExpressVu, channel 972. And you can also access the course on Zoom. So I think maybe in tomorrow's class I will demonstrate how you do that, especially for those who are watching on YouTube and are may not sure. But basically, you're going to zoom.us, and then you're joining a meeting. And every meeting on Zoom has a specific meeting code, and mine is 417-6699-799. All of these videos, all of my classes, once they're broadcast, they will be added to my Laverty WASA Facebook page, my YouTube page, so please check out that and check out the OLC4O playlist. Now, we talked a little bit about submitting work yesterday, so I just want to make sure that you are including your name, your community, your course code, any assignment information. Try to send me assignments in, say, groups of 5 to 10. That's ideal for me. So typically that looks like one lesson that you can apply, that you can, a lesson is usually about 5 assignments. So that's the ideal, but if you want to submit less, that's fine. I think the problem is when you submit more than that, it really limits how fast I can get the feedback to you. And I know that students are eager to just hand stuff in and get to the next assignment, but it's important to take the time and to get your feedback from your teacher. And just note there's many ways you can submit work. It's all in your course study guide. So consult that, and if you still have questions, talk to your DEC or reach out to me directly. So I don't have time to go through everything we talked about yesterday, but throughout the course, I'll give you some reminders. So you can email me at mlaverty@nnecschools.org. Find me on Facebook Messenger. That's LAVERTY space WAHSA. So Laverty, WASA. Find me on Facebook. Send me a message, ask me a question, anything you might have. Here's your next steps. I'd like you to reach out to your teacher, that's me, by email, phone, messenger, etc. We need to figure out what works best for you and to maintain contact throughout the course. So you've got to reach out to me. Whatever way works best for you, I'll make it work for me. And review the OLC4O study guide and Unit 1. So I want you to have a look at those two documents, the study guide and Unit 1. And if you have the time, please skim the first chapters of our novel, Jimmy Comes Home. Or, better yet, you can start reading it. But at the very least, I'd like you to just look at it, skim it, look at the first couple of chapters, read the list of the chapters, maybe read a couple of lines. And like I said, it's an 83-page novel. So as far as novel goes, it's pretty short, and it shouldn't take you too long to read through that, so I think the sooner you do that, the better. All right, let's have a look at today's lesson. We'll do our words of the day. We'll review the parts of speech that we did yesterday. We'll have a look at a headline, and then we'll talk about the writing process. Because that's, again, I mentioned this yesterday, that I think a lot of students have a hard time getting started with the first assignments in this course, so I'm going to spend today's class talking about that writing process and how we do it, how we brainstorm, how we generate ideas. Understanding that writing process is really key to this course, because you have to do a lot of writing in this course. And if you have a strategy and in mind and you apply it to all of your assignments, it's going to make it a lot less stressful, and it's going to make your writing more productive. So let's jump into all that. So especially in the first couple of weeks, I like to do a words of the day. And we are reviewing the 7 grandfather teachings. And today's word or teaching is love. So Zagidiwin. So to know love is to know peace. Again, I'm using an explanation that I found online from 7 Generations Education Institute. And it reads, Zagidewin is unconditional love between one another, including all of creation, humans and non-humans, commonly referred to simply as love. And I love how they break down the word. So zag is to emerge, come out, or flow out. ed is in a reciprocal way, and win is a way it is done. The eagle represents love because he has the strength to carry all of the teachings. So I like that. So to emerge, to come out, to flow out in a reciprocal way. So I guess, and I may be wrong on this, but that my interpretation of this teaching is, you as an individual put love out into the universe, and then you as an individual receive love, from the universe, from the Creator, from humans, from non-humans, from everything. So you put it out there, and it comes back to you. That's what that word reciprocal means, right? In a reciprocal way means that it goes both ways. You put it out there, and it comes back to you. And maybe that's an important part of the teaching, right? So in English, the word love can be a noun or it can be a verb. So we're going to review these parts of speech, right? So a noun is a word that names a person, a place, or a thing. And a verb is an action. It's something that is done to someone or by someone. Or sometimes verbs can be like a state of mind. So love as a noun is an intense feeling of deep affection. The coach could not doubt her love of the game. So in this case, love is a thing. It's something someone has, in this case for the game of hockey. To feel deep affection for someone or something. Sophie didn't like going to school, but she loved being on the hockey team, right? So in this case, love is something you do. So you can have a love for something. That's a noun. Or you can do something. You can love something. In that case, love is a doing word or a verb. Let's quickly review these 9 parts of speech. So like I just mentioned, we've got the noun. It names a person, place, or thing. Verbs are action words, and they come in tenses. Most notably, you've got the past tense. Run. So that's future. Ran is past. So last week I ran a marathon. Run could be future. I will run tomorrow. And yesterday I was running in the rain. So that could also be past, or could be present if we were like, I am running right now. Pronouns are words that take the place of a noun. I, he, she, or it. It's usually like a proper noun. So for example, my name is Mike Laverty. I am teaching OLC4O. Right? So the I replaces Mike Laverty. Or the dog ran away from home. It didn't come back. Right? Or we could say he or she if we know the gender of the dog. So my brother is coming to town tomorrow. I'm looking forward to seeing him. Adverbs tell us how an action is done. So if it's done quickly, slowly, expertly, for example. Adjectives describe nouns. They tell us what a noun looks like, smells like. So I'm using the 5 senses. So sometimes it's also like how many, right? So it tells us like quantity. So 5 shoes, 5 red shoes, right? Those are 2 adjectives that help us describe the word shoes. Articles are used before nouns, so a, an, and the are examples. They're not examples. Those are the only 3 articles in the English language. So if you see the word a, an, or the, it's an article. Conjunctions, these join words or groups of words together. I wanted to go to the concert, comma, but the tickets were sold out, right? So they connect 2 words or they connect groups of words. And they have like a relationship. So this happened, and then that happened. This happened, yet this also happened, right? Prepositions, they show relationships between nouns and pronouns. So they basically show relationship between things and other words, right? So they tell us where something is. Usually prepositions tell us where something is or when something is. In relation to, lunch is after breakfast, right? The dog is under the deck. Interjections. these are words or phrases to show strong emotion, like wow or hey, right? So it's the word usually followed by an exclamation mark. All right, and throughout this course, I would like to give you some real world examples. So we're going to be looking at some articles. I like to publish articles from the Globe and Mail because it's a newspaper that I read a lot, and I read it primarily online. When I'm in the city, I might pick up an actual copy, but usually I'm just reading online, either through the app or just seeing a Facebook story. So today's headline is about Jimmy Kimmel. So Jimmy Kimmel to return as Oscar host in 2023. So want to have a look at that headline and just see if we can look at those parts of speech and see if we can look at the parts of speech and we can see how they work in a real example. Because I think that that's what happens with English, especially when we're doing the more technical aspects of it, when we're talking about grammar and the parts of speech. It can be hard to understand what a preposition is by reading a definition, but you do have to know the definition. But then when you see it applied in a few situations, I'm hoping that it'll kind of come home. So Jimmy Kimmel is a noun because it's a proper noun. So capital J, capital K. To is a preposition. So Jimmy Kimmel to return. So return is a verb. That's what he's doing. Conjunction, the word as. So he returns as Oscars host. So he's not just a host, he's an Oscars host. So the word Oscars is modifying the word host. And he's going to do this in 2023. So in is a preposition. It tells us, when something occurred, in this case, or where it occurred. This is in. And the date 2023 is a noun. So this actually already happened in March, but when the article was published, he hadn't yet done this. So that is, just a quick examination of how these parts of speech operate in a sentence, in a headline. And then real quickly, I'd like to just examine this article and just to see how it's written, and hopefully you can get some tips for your writing, okay? Late night talk show host Jimmy Kimmel will host the 2023 Oscars ceremony, organizers said on Monday, choosing a veteran MC for Hollywood's most prestigious showcase a year after actor Will Smith upended the event by slapping presenter Chris Rock. So a very, very famous incident between the then host Chris Rock getting slapped by Will Smith. So they're mentioning that. So let's see. Okay, so this is the first paragraph of the article. I think it's important to note that you should really work on arranging your writing into paragraphs and just just separating your ideas into paragraphs. And so this it introduces the main idea that Jimmy Kimmel is going to host the 2023 Oscars ceremony. We've got this phrase organizers said on Monday that is put they put a comma before it and a comma after it, right? So sometimes you use commas that way to give more information about a ceremony or to let the readers know who said something. There's some adjectives here we can keep in mind. So he's a veteran MC. The Oscars are the most prestigious showcase, right? So Will Smith, that's a verb, he upended, and he was slapping, right? So that's a verb. That's a verb. Okay. Paragraph number 2. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences hopes Kimmel, comma, a popular U.S. comedian who hosted the Oscars in 2017 and 2018. So there you go. So that's more information about a subject. So oftentimes as a writer, you will introduce a concept. Then you'll put a comma or a bracket, and you'll tell your reader more information about it. So in this case, a popular U.S. comedian who hosted the Oscars in 2017 and 2018 will help boost slumping TV viewership and bring decorum. Decorum, that's a great word. So that just means acting right and having peace and love, right? So and proper conduct to the event after Smith's outburst distracted from the evening's honors last year. So again, paragraph 2 just continues to develop the idea that was brought up in paragraph 1. And that's really what you're doing with your writing, is you're just presenting ideas and thoughts, but the way you present them is really important for your reader to understand what you're saying, for you to tell a story, for you to develop an idea. And this concept of developing an idea is really important, and I can't stress it enough. This is probably the number one problem that I see with student writing that I'm hoping you can avoid with your writing assignments, is that the writing is not specific enough. It's not talking about specific things and ideas. It's too general. It's dealing with things on the surface level, and it doesn't explore the ideas. The writing may bring up lots of ideas, but it doesn't really do much with them. It just sort of keeps things on the surface. So with writing in general, and the writing that you're going to do in this course, it's really important to just focus on a few main ideas and then develop those ideas, like in depth with many examples and many details. That's what's going to make for strong writing. The article goes on to say, last year's broadcast on Walt Disney Company's ABC network received the event's second lowest viewership on record. But video of Smith slapping Rock's face on stage after the comedian made a joke about the actor's wife was shared widely on social media and dominated news headlines for days. So that's interesting. All right, so they're just giving you more information. So even though less people are watching the show on traditional TV networks, what happens on the show is watched by millions, if not billions, of people when it goes viral on social media. Jimmy Kimmel is quoted as saying, being invited to host the Oscars for a third time is either a great honor or a trap, Kimmel said in a statement. Either way, I am grateful to the Academy for asking me so quickly after everyone good said no. So, of course, he's a comedian. He's going to tell jokes. He's sort of making fun of himself. So just note that anytime you include a quote from somebody else, you have to say who it's from. And so usually, you put the quotation marks, and then you put what the person said, and then you put a comma, then you put the other quotation mark, and then you put what we call a speaker slug, or a statement on who said it, right? So in this case, Kimmel said in a statement. So you explain who said it, and you may explain how they said it. So wish I had more time to go through these articles in depth, but of course I want to get to the main attraction here, the main thing, and getting you ready to write assignment 1. So just a quick note on nouns. So that's sort of the part of speech I'm focusing on today. They name something, such as a person, place, or thing, or sometimes an idea. And a proper noun is a specific name of a person, place, or thing, and it's always capitalized, right? So there are over 900 high schools in Ontario. I graduated from Queen Elizabeth District High School, right? So In the first part of that sentence, high schools is lowercase because I'm talking about high schools in general. In the second part of that sentence, I say Queen Elizabeth District High School. That's a specific high school. So it's capital Q, capital E, and so on, right? Everything in the name of that school should be capitalized. But here, it's lowercase because that's not a proper noun. Very common mistake I see in student writing. So hopefully that's one that you can avoid. So, all right. So what I like to do is I like to break down the assignment from your unit handout. So if you go to your unit handout and you flip through unit 1, you will come across the first assignment. But it's your job, to read the assignment description and to sort of figure out what is being asked of you exactly. And so I've done that for you here, and I'll continue to do that as the course progresses. But this is kind of what I would like you to do on your own, right? For any class you're in, right? Just jot down what is actually being asked of you. So these are your requirements. You have to write a half page of writing in paragraph format. This isn't from the assignment requirements, but a half page of writing is about 150 to 250 words. That's sort of what you're looking at. You need to submit a rough copy. You need to submit a final copy. And your submitted assignment will discuss what the 7 grandfather teachings mean to you, right? So that's really what you have to do. You have to, you got to give me a half page of writing, rough and final copy, and that assignment will discuss what the 7 grandfather teachings mean to you. So today we're talking about the writing process, and writing is an art form, and I strongly believe that it's an art form. It's unique to you, and that's one of the most beautiful things about writing is that it's coming from you. It's your thoughts, it's your experiences, it's what you've been through. Nobody can take that away from you. It's your unique experience on this earth, and when you can express it through writing and it makes sense and it rings true, it's a very powerful and it's a very beautiful thing. So we got to keep that in mind, that it is an art form, and everyone's going to have their own style and their method. That being said, there are some tips and strategies that should be helpful to most, if not all, writers. So you've got to know that many people have come before you, many writers have come before you, and they've struggled and done this and done that, and that's what I'm trying to share with you today. Just some tips and some strategies that you can put in place to make yourself a better writer. So we're going to discuss those in the hopes of you getting started on your first assignment in this course. So what we're talking about today is the writing process. And the writing process is often broken down into 5 steps. And they are planning, writing, revising, editing, and publishing. Now, one thing I want to mention is that publishing is the last step. So that's number 5. Once you've published something, you can always go back and change it, just depending on the circumstances, right? But usually, once something is published, it's out there, it's finished, the writer has released it, and creative people are known for this, whether they be singer-songwriters or sculptors or painters or writers. They have a hard time letting go and just saying this thing is done. But at some point, you have to do that. So once step 5 happens, it's sort of final. Now these other ones, step 1, so number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4, these you might start with planning. You might even start by writing some stuff, right? You just write down some random stuff, and then that leads you to do some planning, and then you write some more, and then you revise what you wrote. And we're going to jump into that in a second. And then you edit it, and then you might circle back and write some more, and then you might edit some more on your way to publishing, right? So those first 4 steps, they don't happen like one is done, on to 3, on to 4, right? These steps, sometimes you go back and forth between them, and more on that in a second. So step 1, I'm asking you to pick 1 to 3 of the 7 grandfather teachings. So, and this is after marking a few of these assignments. This is what I've taken away. This is what I've learned. I think it's a lot. It's a lot to talk about all 7 of the grandfather teachings. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier, where I think it's really important for students to find focus in their writing, right? To find focus on what they want to talk about. And it's very hard to talk about 7 different things in one paragraph. So I would even go lower if you can, right? Just find maybe 2 of these grandfather teachings. Find the 2 that mean the most to you, or the 2 that you can write about the easiest, right? So when you look at those 7 grandfather teachings, pick 1 or 3 of them that that stand out to you. And then you're going to write down as many words, ideas, memories, etc. as you can for each of the teachings. And then after you do that, you're going to pick your 3 to 5 your favorite words or ideas, and these are the ones that will be the easiest to write about. And can you make any connections between or among these words or ideas? Is there a theme? Is there a big idea that sort of emerges from from those teachings, right? So if we go back to our 7 grandfather teachings, we have love, respect, bravery, honesty, humility, truth, and wisdom, right? So we got to take note of those 7 and sort of, just pick 1 or 2 of them, and then just kind of get some ideas based off of those 7 grandfather teachings. So I got my pen and a pad out now. I'm going to make a note of all of them. So love, respect, bravery, honesty, humility, truth, and wisdom. And then I'm going to go back to my notebook page here. So of that list, love, respect, bravery, honesty, humility, truth, and wisdom, I'm going to write down humility under one column, and then maybe bravery on the other one. And then it depends on how you want to approach this, but I'm going to pick those 2 teachings, those 2 words, and then just see what kind of associations and what kind of ideas come to mind when I look at those 2 words, right? So when I think about bravery, I think about facing problems, in my life that cause pain. To me, that's sort of bravery. Speaking against injustice. So you can jot down like words, or I'm jotting down like fully fledged ideas, but you don't have to do that. So humility is, I would say, treating all others, as equals. Especially those less fortunate than us. I guess that's humility. It's also understanding I would say understand the problems of others. Let's see, what else can we do under bravery? We've got, yeah, I guess doing the right thing. That's having difficult conversations. That's a big one for me. Sometimes I shy away from those hard conversations, and they're good to have, right? So, and humility, we got treating all others as equals, especially those less fortunate, understanding the problems of others. One more for humility. This is being grounded by something bigger than me. So instead of just jumping into the writing process, and again, I should mention that if that's what you want to do, that's totally fine. You can just jump right in and just start writing. But me personally, I really find the planning process to be quite useful. And so I've got these ideas up on the board. So humility to me, is treating all others as equals, especially those less fortunate, understanding the problems of others, being grounded by something bigger than me. Bravery means facing problems in my life that cause pain, speaking against injustice, doing the right thing, and having difficult conversations. So I like this last point. So the idea of being grounded by something that's bigger than me on the humility side, and then I kind of like these two. So having difficult conversations and facing problems in my life that cause pain, right? So I'm going to try to find a way to connect those three little bubbles right there. So that's what I find is the really cool thing about this planning process is you generate ideas you didn't even know you had, or and then just sometimes just simply seeing the ideas on the page, even though those ideas came from you, and they are your ideas. Sometimes you have to see them on the page and be like, "Oh wow, okay, that's cool. I'm gonna write about that." So you can do this, right? So you're gonna pick your favorite 3 to 5 words or ideas. So I picked my favorite 3, and these are the ones that are gonna be the easiest to write about. And then to see if you can find a connection between them, right? So this other option is this other model. It's called an idea web, or sometimes you may have called this a spider diagram, right? So, for example, I could say something like, being grounded by something bigger than me. And then I'm thinking of things like religion, my place in my community, we're talking kind of similar ideas: spirituality. You know, the big picture stuff. You know, like life, the universe, and everything. Again, I'm getting closer to what I want to talk about, but I'm not really sure what I want to talk about just yet. So I've got spirituality, big picture stuff, my place in my community. Again, we're talking about being grounded by something that's bigger than ourselves. That's humility. Um, just seeing how small I am in the universe. So I'm getting very philosophical today. And then I might want to actually put down some actual experiences here. You know, um, my responsibility my responsibility as a father / husband, right? So, this idea of serving others. Yeah, so I generated my list of associations or things that I thought about when I looked at those 7 grandfather teachings, and then I kind of focused on one, this idea of being humble, and under the humility column I wrote down being grounded by something bigger than me. All right, step 2. Write. Sometimes it is hard to get started because we don't know what we want to say, or we expect our writing to be perfect or great right away. So this, we can't stress this enough, especially when talking to people who are either don't have much writing experience or don't have faith in their abilities as writers just yet. And this is a common thing that I hear from students in this course. I don't have any writing skills. I'm a terrible writer. And then they produce some writing, and I read it, and I'm like, no, that's not true. You've got lots of skills, and I've heard that from so many students. A complete lack of faith in their writing ability, and sometimes they've even expressed that in writing, which is very ironic, right? So they're talking about how they can't write, but they're doing that in a paragraph that's pretty well written. So I think it's really common. So don't feel alone if you feel that way. If you're doubting your abilities, if you're thinking that I can't do this, I'm hoping you can take a step back and just take a deep breath and believe in yourself, and just know that you can do this, and with a lot of practice you can get way better at it, right? So that's, I think everybody can be a writer. It's a skill that can be taught. I often, it's like I'm a guitar player, and it doesn't bother me as much anymore, but it used to bother me a lot when I was younger, and people would see me play and they'd be like, "Oh, I wish I could do that." And you'd be like, "Well, it's not like I just turned on the amp, or it's not like I just grabbed a guitar and could do that right away." It's sort of like this insinuation that certain people are born a certain way. Some people are born creative, and some people are born as writers and people who can express themselves. So I personally don't really believe in that. I think it's like being an athlete. I think you're definitely born with a particular set of abilities and a mind and a body, and for sure some of us are born with better bodies to do certain things, right? Like some of us are born as basketball players, they're born as football players. But that being said, none of those people got to where they got without a lot of hard work and effort and trial and error, right? So you're the same way. You can do this. Main point, I kind of got distracted there, was you You should not expect to just write in perfect sentences, or don't expect to just crank out writing that is great. You have to shift your mindset, and you have to look at writing as a process. And writing is not just putting thoughts in my head on the page. Sometimes we use writing as a way to figure out what we want to say. So we don't know what we want to say, and we explore that through writing. And writing is a way of thinking. And so when we start any writing project, the most important thing is to get ideas on the page, right? And one useful way to do that is an exercise I'm going to go with you called free writing, which I'm hoping that you can try after this course ends. After today's class ends, you can try this exercise, right? So in the initial phases of writing, you're trying to get a whole bunch of ideas on the page, and you have to stop worrying about those things making sense. You just have to get a whole bunch of ideas on the page, and then you can choose which ones you like best. So when we use free writing, the first thing we do is we review the list of words or ideas we generated in step 1 through the planning phase. Then we set a timer, or we just use a watch for at least 5 minutes. You start your timer and you write out as many words as you can before the timer runs out. You're not allowed to stop, just let the words flow. So here's a great image. For anyone who's familiar with the show Futurama, we've got Fry saying, "I'm not sure if I've conquered writer's block or if I'm just writing nonsense." So it is a very effective tool to combat writer's block. So writer's block is when you're staring at a blank piece of paper or a blinking cursor on a computer screen. You've got this assignment, but you don't know how to get started. Free writing is a way to conquer that block. So rule number 1, don't worry about making sense. If you can't think of anything to write, write about that. And the most important part of free writing is not stopping, right? So it's about getting your mind in that flow state. And when there's different brain states that happen inside your mind, and I'm not a neuroscientist, but I do read a lot of books and listen to a lot of podcasts about it, and they study the brain. And what you're really trying to do is get into what we call a flow state, where ideas are just flowing out of you, and you're not being critical of the ideas, right? That's the really important thing, is people are really critical of their own writing. And they're like, this is terrible, what the hell am I doing? Nothing makes sense, right? So there's a part of your brain that wants to critique and attack and like size it up and look at what it is. And there's a part of your brain that doesn't care about any of that. It just wants to produce stuff. It just wants to get ideas on the page. So you got to tap into that part of your brain, okay? You've got to tap into that part of the brain that wants you to just get stuff on the page. Once you've got enough stuff on the page, so once you do step 1, do a bit of planning. Once you complete step 2, do a bit of rough writing or free writing. Then you have some stuff to work with. And so when you have a whole bunch of rough ideas and you start to mold those rough ideas into paragraphs and into like subheadings and themes and bigger picture stuff, that's revision. So revision is big picture stuff. It's when we start to see the overall theme of what we're talking about. We start to draft up ways that we're going to write it. Paragraph 1, paragraph 2, or just sentence 1, sentence 2. It's how we organize it. That's revision. So after you do a free writing session, then you review what you wrote. So you see how it's like a it's this constant looking back on what you just did, right? So I do some planning. I jot down some words that come to my mind. Then I review what I wrote. Then I do a bit of free writing, and I generate a whole bunch of words. Then I look back and I review what I wrote, right? And then when you look back, you're trying to find the main idea or the theme in what you just wrote. And then you reorganize what you have typed, or you rewrite those ideas into a new paragraph, making your rough copy. Editing is similar to revising in that you're changing what you wrote and reorganizing it, but editing is very much fine-tuning. Editing is when we correct spelling mistakes, we change the order of our words, we cut words, we add words, we make changes to our sentences, and we become better writers by learning how to edit. So that's needs to be repeated. We become better writers by learning how to edit. And it's very difficult to generate ideas and edit them at the same time. So the best approach that I can think of to tell you is to do one or the other. Just generate ideas or not, right? So if I go back and I look at what I have, so being grounded by something bigger than me, you know, being humble, yeah, so what I'm gonna do here, just with the last, maybe I'll set a timer. I'll set a timer. We only got a few minutes left here. And we'll open up a Microsoft Word app. All right, so I've got my Microsoft Word app up on the screen, and I've got my clock. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a timer, and it's going to say humility. Okay, being grounded by something bigger than me. And I'm just going to start writing, and sometimes, you know, I have been asked to do a free writing session to help me generate ideas for my first assignment. You know, after brainstorming some ideas, the one thing I like best is the concept of serving others. I chose I chose to write about the 7 grandfather teaching of humility. You know, as I get older, this teaching becomes more important in my life. I feel that my focus is becoming more about serving others than helping myself. You know, other people helped me, and now it's time for me to do the same. Okay, that is all. That's all the time we do have for today. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll pick this up tomorrow. Thank you.